go. From the top. 4 cameras, common mark. And action.
I'm Brian Armstrong, co-founder and CEO of Coinbase. When Coinbase first got started, we were a simple place for people to buy and sell Bitcoin.
The largest U.S. cryptocurrency exchange is about to be a publicly traded company after years of skepticism from Wall Street about Bitcoin.
Coinbase is a company with an ambitious vision to create more economic freedom for every... Try that one again.
Coinbase really helped take cryptocurrency from an internet hobby for coders to a mainstream investment today.
I imagined a world where anybody with a smartphone could have access to sound money and financial services, where every payment could be as fast, cheap, and global as sending an email. We're helping make this happen by building the open financial system for the world. That sounded like a question. For the world? For the world! By building the open financial system for the world.
I grew up in San Jose, California. The early days of the .com boom was happening in Silicon Valley.
Pretty cool guy, Brad. The spacecraft has landed.
It was kind of a nerdy household.
Right there with the camera. Hi. What is your name and how are you related to me?
I'm Dave Armstrong and I'm your dad.
My dad was an environmental engineer.
Okay, thank you.
If you don't know now, it's too late.
My mom worked at IBM. She was one of the early women computer programmers. I was really shy as a kid, and I felt like I have these good ideas, but people don't listen to me.
Hello, everyone. This is Brian's room. My molecule poster. And my e-coupon.
He was very interested in computers, so we shopped around and tried to find a deal on a used one, and we finally got him one that was a pretty good working computer, but it had a German keyboard. So we said, here's your computer, Brian. It's up to you to figure out how to use it.
In high school, I built this website. And I remember I went to sleep and I woke up in the morning and I checked the stats, and like 1,000 people looked at it while I was sleeping. It's like making a copy of myself, talking to these 1,000 people all over the world. That was like the coolest feeling ever. When I went to college, my roommate and I were trying to think about how to make some extra cash. And I realized if we were to tutor high school students, man, we could make great money. We decided, let's make a web app. It was called University Tutor. I thought getting customers would be the hard part, but the movement of the money was actually the hardest part. Somebody from our bank called us one day, and they're like, what are you guys doing? Why is this money moving in these certain patterns? And, are you aggregating customer funds? And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And it felt like I was actually being treated like a criminal. I was disappointed. I couldn't ever get it to break out and be a real success. So after I graduated college, I ended up selling it. I felt like, what do I want to do with my life? I wanted to put myself out of my comfort zone. So I decided to move to Buenos Aires for a year.
Where are you going to live? Well, I don't know. There's this pension or something. I'll go see if they have a room there. And I mean, it's just sort of really loose, freer than I would have been.
One of the things I did notice living in Argentina is that they have this really amazing culture and people there are really proud, but they also have this history of really deep distrust of the government. I got to see what an economy and a culture looked like that had gone through hyperinflation and didn't have a well-run monetary system. I remember these menus I saw at a restaurant. Prices would update due to inflation frequently enough that they had to put new stickers on top instead of printing new menus. One of the things that stuck with me was that they didn't believe that the future could be better. I remember feeling kind of frustrated about that. It felt like, yeah, this is just kind of wrong. Around Christmas time, 2010, I came back to California and I was just home with my family, and I happened to come across the Bitcoin white paper.
I think it was Christmas dinner, and we were saying, come on down, we got dinner hot on the table. And he was saying, just wait, just wait.
It was describing something kind of like the internet that was global and decentralized, that no company or country owned, but instead of for moving information around, like the internet, it was for moving value around. I thought, oh my gosh, this could have an enormous impact on the world.
remember my mother at some point was like, come down and spend time with the family. And I was like, I'm reading this really important thing.
I don't know. He didn't come down and talk about it, though, dear.
No, not because we wouldn't have understood it if he did.
After Christmas, I got back on the plane. I started flying back to Buenos Aires. And I remember having this sinking feeling in my stomach. Oh my gosh, why am I leaving? I'm going the wrong direction. I came back from Argentina and eventually took a job at Airbnb, but kind of just couldn't stop thinking about Bitcoin. I just had this very visceral sense that the economy is becoming more global, but many countries around the world don't have stable financial systems, and it's deeply unfair. I really believed in the potential of Bitcoin to create empowerment for people, but it needs to be dramatically easier to use and trusted and safe. Using Bitcoin at that time was pretty difficult. If you wanted to buy some, you had to send a wire to one of the only Bitcoin exchanges at that time called Mt. Gox, which was in Japan. Frankly, it was not the most trustworthy place.
Authorities in Tokyo arrested the former head of the Japan-based Mt. Gox for allegedly falsifying financial records. Several $100 million were unaccounted for.
Also, by the way, if you actually acquire any Bitcoin and your hard drive crashed, your Bitcoin would be gone. So I felt like the solution is a hosted Bitcoin wallet. In the evenings and weekends, I started tinkering with this prototype. The big idea was make Bitcoin easier to use.
Just the concept of cryptocurrency, what's that?
And how are you going to make a living off of it? I'm not sure we still understand that.
Yeah.
The analogies that I had in my mind were services like Gmail. If you lost your phone or your computer, your email wasn't all gone. It was in the cloud and people were doing security and backups for you. Remember, I was talking to somebody, I'm thinking about launching a hosted Bitcoin wallet. And this guy was like, oh my gosh, that's a terrible idea. I thought, maybe I'm crazy. I was like, I think this is kind of cool and interesting, but like nobody else seems to think so. Let me apply to Y Combinator and see what they say.
Y Combinator is a startup incubator, meaning it funds a whole bunch of startups at once and then tries to help them get rolling.
The minute I got accepted into Y Combinator, I decided I was quitting my job at Airbnb and starting this new company.
How is he going to survive? Does he have health care? What's going to happen here? Does he have enough to eat?
So unfortunately, very few startups succeed. We tend to think of the ones that do, Google or PayPal, these kind of iconic public companies.
This is why we created HUDL.
Statistically, the chance of a startup going public is less than 1% for sure.
I can't wait to tell you more.
Going public is for founders what winning an Academy Award is for an actor.
All right, I need to pick some name for this thing. I happened to be reading the Wikipedia entry for the Bitcoin protocol, and I saw the word Coinbase in there. Coinbase is okay. I didn't love the name, but I'll change it later. Coinbase is a hosted Bitcoin platform. You can access your money from any device. You don't have to worry about security and backups. We'd love to have you bring it. We'd love to have you help us bring it to the rest of them. I need to... For 3 months, you go through this Y Combinator bootcamp, and then you go pitch at demo day in front of all these investors. Coinbase is doing for Bitcoin what iTunes did to the MP3.
Brian's idea was not a hot deal with investors after demo day. This was not the one that every investor in the Valley was talking about and felt like they had to have a piece of.
It was really depressing. After I graduated from Y Combinator, there was a lot of things that I couldn't figure out how to do, and I needed to find a co-founder.
I kind of grew up on the internet, played way too many video games. My parents thought that was a total waste of time.
Fred was certainly in high school into that in a pretty serious way, to the point where, in my opinion, he was kind of losing sleep and we needed to tell him to kind of go to bed.
One time, to try to get me to stop playing, my mom shut off the circuit breaker for the whole house. Needless to say, she was unsuccessful. After college, I went to work at Goldman Sachs as a foreign exchange trader. I thought it was the closest I would get to playing a video game for a real reputable job.
Goldman is an elite institution, and the job that he got was well into the 1%.
When I got there, I learned that this video game wasn't that much fun, unfortunately. I found Bitcoin on a blog one night and became obsessed. It got to the point where I was trading Bitcoin in the bathroom at work. One day, I see this post saying, I've created this demo app that makes it really easy to use crypto, and I'm looking for somebody to work on it with. Here I am thinking, yeah, it kind of seems like cryptocurrency is small and crazy and feels like a toy right now, but that seems like something I would really want to spend my time working on.
My cell phone rings, and it's Fred. And Fred says, Dad, I think I'm gonna go join this startup. And I said, okay. He decided to turn his back on lifetime financial security, sell all his stuff, go out to the West Coast for a highly risky venture.
The office was a glorified apartment.
It looked like a bachelor pad. I think
It was an old building, and as a matter of fact, about a year or two after they were in there, a piece of the building fell off and hit somebody in the head. It was serious. I forget
Inside
if they
the
died
building?
or not. Outside the building. I mean, it was an old building.
We spent all of our waking hours together 6 to 7 days a week, constantly thinking about what can we do to make this better.
It became clear that Fred had insane work ethic, and we had very complementary skill sets. I didn't know for sure if it would work out, but there was something special happening.
At some level, it almost didn't even feel like work, just because I think we were having so much fun while we were doing it. We both did a bunch of coding and engineering, worked on the product, and then we both did a lot of customer support late at night.
It was getting to a place where like our whole day was answering support tickets, and we realized we need to start hiring.
I was in Washington State working as a lumberjack, but I was paying very close attention to what was happening in the cryptocurrency landscape, and I wanted to see this in the world. So I just emailed jobs at Coinbase and said, I'll do anything. I knew I didn't have any concrete skills other than I knew a lot about Bitcoin, and I was ready to work hard.
The team felt like a family. What's special about a startup, right, is that everybody is sort of like sick with you in this shared vision for the future.
Felt at the time like we're doing something incredible, but people would sign up for the product and they would never come back and use it. So business wasn't growing, and we were on the verge of running out of money, and we did not have product market fit. I called up some people who had signed up to use the app. I was like, what do you think? And they would say, well, I like the product, but I don't really have any Bitcoin, so I didn't have anything to use it for. So that kind of made me think, well, if there was a button to buy Bitcoin in the app, so you had some, would you use that? And they were like, maybe, yeah. We posted online that the feature was live. We went to bed. The next day, a bunch of people used it. And the day after, even more people used it. And the day after, even more. It goes from pushing a boulder up a hill every day to the boulder's rolling downhill and you're chasing it as fast as you can. We were being inundated with customer support inquiries. The website was periodically going offline. We had all kinds of hackers trying to break into the site.
From 8 p.m. until 2 a.m. was Brian's uninterrupted moment to actually build the website.
We developed this system where interrupt me if it is some kind of emergency, but we had to define emergency.
I would run up to him with a Post-it note and I would write red alert and hold it up for him while he was still working.
I think it was like the number of digits of money we would lose if this wasn't fixed in the next hour. Our bank was like calling us every day. We're probably gonna turn off your bank account if you don't get some more money in your account. And at that moment, we rushed out to raise the Series A.
Series A is where a venture capital firm will place a bold bet on the company saying, hey, we think this has a chance of being $1 billion plus company.
So in late 2012, I got an email from Paul Graham. It said, hey, Fred, we're ready to do the Series A in Coinbase. Can I introduce you to Brian and Fred?
We were so burned out and sleep deprived. We didn't really have a slide deck or anything. And we basically said, here's our revenue graph. We're using our working capital to fund this, and we're gonna run out of money in the next 2 weeks. Do you want to invest?
In the super early days, crypto company founders were either scam artists or they were almost like religious zealots. I meet Brian and he explains to me, I'm a former security engineer at Airbnb. I know how to secure crypto assets, will comply with the regulations, and he just seemed pragmatic.
All right, we're uncapping the champagne. Just getting ready.
What are we celebrating?
We're celebrating the fact that earlier this morning, we checked our bank account and it happened to have $5 million more in it than it did last night.
That is accurate.
We briefly took an adjournment from the monitors in the office to go up to the roof and celebrate.
Kind of popped it, and we kind of drank it, and mostly just spilled a lot of champagne everywhere.
Cheers, boys.
But I remember it was maybe 2 minutes, and then it was like, all right, we got shit to do.
Brian, these days when you talk about cryptocurrencies to laymen, how quickly do people's eyes glaze over?
It's kind of this mind-bending thing when you first read about it that takes people a little while to wrap their head around. The short explanation I give to people, I say, this is digital money. You know, instead of for moving information around, like the internet, this is for moving value around.
So what effect do the crypto scandals have on what you're trying to do?
Whenever a new technology gets created, it can be used for good or bad. It's kind of the Wild West. And so that's been, I feel like, our role is to be, hopefully, an adult in the room and go proactively seek out regulators and see how we can create a more trusted environment.
So you've been described as a Vulcan Swiss banker.
Haven't heard that one in a while.
I didn't quite know what that meant when I read it. It's sort of inscrutable and hard to get information out of. But actually, I find you quite charming and open. Is this the new Brian Armstrong?
Well, I was a software engineer, right? I had never managed anybody. And when you go make something and then suddenly it's like, oh shoot, I need to figure out how to be a CEO, right? I'm trying to find my voice as CEO, but I'm hopefully becoming a little more comfortable in my own skin, and I think we got along pretty well, Bill.
Great to meet you, and we'll carry on.
Part of me actually really doesn't like the idea of being a public figure because I feel like it's so risky. People treat you weird in weird ways, and you could slip up and say the wrong thing and just be the angry mob will come after you. I mean, getting all this advice, it's like, well, crypto needs a face of the industry. Maybe you can be it. And it's like, I'm like reluctantly trying it out. We'll see how it goes.
To be a successful entrepreneur, it's very difficult to not develop the skills of an extrovert. They might be introverts naturally, but they figure out a way to be very extroverted when it comes to their stakeholders. They say the meek will inherit the earth. They're not going to inherit the NASDAQ.
I remember seeing other CEOs, and I would always be so impressed. I was like, man, they're so confident, and that doesn't look anything like me. While Fred was at the company, a lot of the decisions were made. Just Fred and I would get in a room, hash out all the options, choose the least bad one, and move forward. When he left, I was feeling a little overwhelmed running the whole thing. You can feel like your identity is wrapped up in this thing, and so if it fails, I've failed.
Because of how fast we're growing, the dynamics of trust within the company change really quickly. Not too far before I joined, there was like this level of assumed trust because we were like fewer than 150 people. Mm-hmm. We all kind of know each other. And pretty quickly, we moved far beyond that number, and there isn't the same sort of assumed trust between employees.
Yep, I agree. At 150 people, I can keep in my mind everything we're basically working on and who everybody is and their name and what they do. And past 150, it's like, that's even difficult to keep track of. And occasionally, you'll pop into some meeting to hear a status update, and you're like, that's happening in the company I created? And like, I can't believe it. We're about 800 employees now, and we're learning how to operate at this larger scale. You're never going to retain great talent if you don't treat them with respect and give them opportunities for growth. And also, top people, they don't want to come work at companies unless they have some mission or purpose that's bigger than just making money.
Crypto will be the biggest force in driving quality of life across the board.
Crypto has the highest likelihood of being helpful in places where something is broken: governance, financial institutions, social bonds. There are over 2 billion smartphones out there, and far fewer than that bank accounts. And now with this technology, you can effectively have a bank account on your phone. And that may not be interesting to an American or Western European, but that's very interesting to someone living under hyperinflation like a Venezuelan. Their money's depreciating by about 50% a month. The money is becoming worthless.
Fundamentally, we just want to see if we can help people with this. But one of our ancillary goals or secondary goals is, can we actually spark crypto economies in the world? Because that would probably bring more economic freedom.
Bitcoin is a revolutionary human rights tool. We're talking about this tremendous opportunity for all these people to be their own bank. They can actually control their own value, their time and energy that they put into their wages. They can custody into something that can't be taken from them.
Cryptocurrency is the first time you can have an electronic transaction that is censorship resistant.
Violence sent a wave of anger.
In Belarus, we saw pro-democracy protests.
Police were detaining thousands of people.
We saw protesters cut off from financial services in their country. This nonprofit was able to then raise $3 million in Bitcoin in order to support people who'd lost their jobs in the Belarusian government or elsewhere because they were protesting for democracy.
What happened here has deeply unsettled Nigerians.
And in Nigeria, we saw protests against police violence where people cut off from the banking system were able to live and be supported because of Bitcoin. Despite the corruption in that country,
there's this balance between freedom and state control, and certainly cryptocurrency in general and Bitcoin in particular makes you think about that. And I think the challenge to regulators is the bar is moving pretty far, pretty fast.
Because there's a lot of skepticism in government about crypto in general. Do you ever get that feeling that, you know what, I just want to tell them how this actually works. I want to educate them.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if that happens, because I do think crypto is going to keep becoming more and more relevant in the world. It's actually funny, when I go to DC, usually all the staffers that are in the kind of the waiting room, they all come up and are like, Coinbase, like I love Coinbase, I have the app. And then I go meet with like the senator or the congressman, and they're like, what is this technology about?
For the first time in his presidency, President Trump publicly commented on crypto, and he doesn't like it.
Bitcoin, it just seems like a scam.
Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong tweeted, "Achievement unlocked. I dreamt about the sitting US president needing to respond to growing cryptocurrency usage years ago. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. We just made it to step 3, y'all."
Crypto could be even more dangerous for consumers.
They help terrorists and criminals move money around the world.
Terrorism financing, criminal activity of all kinds.
They present real risks through their use by the criminal and terrorist organizations trying to conceal their illicit activity.
I was a federal prosecutor for over a decade, prosecuting organized crime with the United States Department of Justice. I felt a deep sense of doing what's right and bringing people who have broken the law to justice.
The Mongols are in a fierce, bloody feud with the Hells Angels.
I prosecuted a high-profile murder involving the Hells Angels and the Mongols motorcycle gangs, a case involving the Nuestra Familia prison gang. I also prosecuted corrupt federal agents investigating the Silk Road case. Late 2012, one of my bosses in the Justice Department came to me and said, there's this new technology that's being used criminally called Bitcoin. And we need to get to the bottom of this.
A new website sells illegal drugs to anyone who is willing to pay.
Payment was in Bitcoin.
I thought, this sounds criminal. And I started looking into it, like what was Bitcoin? And that was when I had a really powerful aha moment. This is a technology like the internet. It's not inherently good or bad, and it's not a thing that can be prosecuted. In fact, we were able to use crypto technology to trace criminal activity. The first time I met Brian, I actually remember it well. A first impression that some of us in the government had was that people involved in crypto didn't believe in laws or regulation at all. Brian really stood in stark contrast to that.
Being the CEO and founder of the biggest company in the industry, Brian has that responsibility.
If you let people keep the upsides of their success, you get economic growth, which benefits everybody. I think it has all these positive downstream effects in society, whether that's health metrics like infant mortality or around education or how well the environment is protected or the income of the poorest people. Apparently, it positively correlates with like happiness in society and less war. So I think that's what cryptocurrency can actually enable.
It's history in the making at the NASDAQ. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have an exciting morning here at the NASDAQ.
All right, stand by, secondary line.
Crypto trading platform Coinbase finally making its highly anticipated Wall Street debut.
All right, Coinbase, first update. Demand's been building all morning on the NASDAQ auction. The auction will officially start.
I woke up with fucking jet fuel in my legs. I went for a run this morning and just like crushed.
You're a better man than me getting up that early on today. Going for a run. I just woke up and came to check in on the live stream. I'm not that much of an early riser. Hopefully it all plays out according to plan.
Right now, we're coming up with what's called an indicative price based off of the supply and the demand.
1.5 million shares of retail demand came in the last second before the auction started, and so the first look in Coinbase is $340 on 3 million shares. Coinbase first look $340 on 3 million.
That was a bigger uptick in demand than I would have expected.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Coinbase's big public listing day. Brian, could you tell us how you came up with the idea for Coinbase?
Yeah, sure. So it was 2010, and I was home for the holidays at my parents' house, and I happened to read the Bitcoin white paper written by Satoshi Nakamoto.
All right, still building here in Coinbase. Plan is to open the stock in the next 30 minutes.
We learned a new piece of information about 30 minutes out.
We were in this because we wanted crypto to work. We wanted there to be more economic freedom in the world.
We are getting closer in Coinbase, 377 on 8 million, so finish your lunch.
Goldman Sachs, when they are ready to give us the green light to open up the stock, they will verbally repeat the size of the order as well as the indicative price.
People no longer need to be scared of it like in the early days.
There's going to be a tremendous amount of activity here after the open. 5-minute warning, Coinbase.
Get your flow in if you're sitting on the sidelines. 382 on 8.7 million. Got stuck to buy on balance there within 5 minutes. Stand by for the open.
Don't go too far here, because I guarantee you we are getting close.
It truly is a new economy. It has hundreds and thousands of companies being created in this space.
The stock will open within the next 2 minutes.
I got the 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning.
How can we really leverage this opportunity to create more jobs, more economic growth for people in every country in the world that embraces this?
This is like the moment at the wedding. Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, here we go. All right, hi guys.
Hey man.
All right, I see the stock $381 on 8.83 million shares.
That is confirmed. That is what I say.
Open the stock.
Opening at 381. Stand by.
Welcome to the NASDAQ family.
And I should mention, we are live, and I can prove that we're live, which is that Coinbase stock is now listed and trading. So congratulations.
Oh man, it's kind of an overwhelming moment. There's so many things happening, so many emotions, and I mean, the biggest thing I just want to say is that this is entirely a group effort. Like the customers that helped us get here, all the employees. It's a really rare group of people who saw this trend early, made a bet on it, came together, and I think it helped us get to where we are today. This is not the end, this is the beginning.